anything's picking anything up. Hmm, I don't know. I don't really have a way to check it. I could just. Yeah. Alright. You should be able to hear me. If you can't, then I'm just reading for myself. Anyways. Where were we? The only thing that she cares about is learning who she is and where she came from. Maybe to her that's all she needs. Maybe that's all I need. Once I find out who I am, I may finally be home. I may finally have a place. Luckily, we're both on the right track. And thanks to her, I found another clue. Iris is actually from something created in 2654 called an old IMC unit, Adonis Squad, was in some way involved with Project Iris. Ray thinks that Bangalore might know something from the squad's history, and I hope so too. Alrighty. Then it goes into the interview. Hi, Bangalore. Pathfinder. You don't look a day over 38. Excuse you? Wraith said I should definitely say that. Did she now? Aren't you glad I did? I'll be sure to give Wraith my thanks in person when I see her again. I just came from seeing her. She's doing very well. Finding out more about her past every day. So am I. I'm thrilled for both of you. Wow, how'd you do that? Your tone didn't match the meaning of your words at all. Yes, I'm very layered, full of nuance. Oh, I understand now. This is sarcasm. Wraith is a comedian. Wraith is a comedian. See, I can be sarcastic too. That's not quite. Never mind. I'll never be able to sarcasm. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Anyway, you said Wraith sent you here? Yes. Did she tell you why? Why would Wraith tell me anything? Aren't you best friends? What? Okay, look. You have this fascination with the term best friend. I need you to listen to me. Humans under the age of 15 talk about best friends. Adults have acquaintances, colleagues, peers. That sounds very lonely. Life is lonely sometimes. A lot of the time, you do what you have to do in order to get by. Well, I think you and Wraith should be friends. You have a lot in common. You're both IMC. Wraith is not IMC. She is. She worked in the Aries division. Wraith is a lab rat, okay? She did that to herself and nobody but herself, and she has nobody but herself to blame for what happened to her, not the IMC. Maybe if people took responsibility for their own actions, there would be a lot less finger pointing going around in this world. You're very angry with me. Did I say something wrong? No, it's not you. I feel like all I hear today is people blaming the IMC for their problems. Everybody conveniently forgets that there is a time where there was a time of prosperity out here, and that was when the IMC was running things before the militia rose up. I learned much about both the IMC and the militia. It's not difficult to understand why the militia didn't think the IMC were their friends anymore. That's the problem. Too many people think they know what's best, think they know what's most profitable, think they know more than anybody else. The truth is, they don't. Most people in this world would be better off if they just did what they were told. The IMC provided jobs, put food on the table. All they asked in return was that you played by their rules, and their rules weren't that difficult. Grown men crying about liberty and freedom. Well, we got it, all right. Look at you, Pathfinder. Liberty for miles, but half the folks don't have food, and the other half don't have jobs. But we got freedom. How's that working out for you? I'm doing great. I just need to find my creator. Don't we all? Bringing up the IMC makes you very upset. I didn't come here to make you very upset. That makes me sad. But I do have a question about that. May I ask it? Could I stop you? I suppose you could shut me down. That would also make me sad. I'm not gonna power you down, you stupid robot. Yay for not powering down. I don't understand why Wraith was tortured by the IMC, and Lifeline's parents lied to her about the IMC, and you're angrier at the both of them than at the IMC. Why is that? It's not the IMC I'm angry at. It's everybody who survived that pisses me off. You're mad that the IMC didn't survive? To everybody walking around out there, they're the big bad wolf, the enemy, the power-hungry overlords. But to me, they were my neighbors, my aunts, and my uncles. They were the crossing guard at my school and the pastor at my church. They were the doctors who gave me a lollipop if I didn't cry when they set my broken bone in a cast. They're my brothers. They're my parents. Bangalore? Are you crying? Every single day I walk out that door, I get looks. Their faces shrivel up in disgust when they see my patches. They scurry away to their pets and they protect their children from me like I'm some kind of monster. One woman even spit in my face. I was raised to believe they knew better than we did, and they would lead us on the right path. And when I believed with all my heart, my life was good. There was discipline and hard work, but there was barbecues and sing-alongs. And there was a lot of love in my life, in a lot of people's lives. And then someone decided that they didn't like the IMC, that they were the bad guys. And they started a war over it. And life was never the same again. Because they thought power was being abused, according to the history books Lifeline gave me. The history books are written by men, and men have opinions. They always have opinions, and opinions don't tell the whole story. Why not? Why not what? Why don't men tell the whole story? So they can rewrite history, prove they were right all along. That doesn't seem fair. It's not. But it's been that way for as long as we've walked this or any planet. No one ever knows the complete story. Does that mean I will never know the complete story of my creation? You're dedicated. Because of that, you'll get to the truth. Parts of it, at least. And some of those parts may be accurate, but there will always be somebody else out there who has a different perspective of the same story. And it may not be the perspective that you want to hear. I can't imagine there's any part of the story of my creation that I won't want to hear. You'd be surprised what can sneak up on you. What snuck up on you? What didn't? Maybe I can be prepared, like crypto. If I knew what I was looking for, what was it you heard that you wish you hadn't heard? It doesn't matter. Everything you say matters because you said it. If legend doesn't work out for you, greeting card writer might. I've already got that. I've already done that. I got fired. Okay. I forget how exhausting it is to talk to you. Excuse me. Thank you, friend. So, Jeez, the roof of my mouth itches. Don't you hate when that happens? I guess it's allergies. I was outside today. I guess pollen just makes roof of my mouth itchy. Anyways, I'm trying to fix my light so that I can see what I'm reading. Maybe if I use this. Yeah, that didn't help at all, but it's fine. I already got fired. Okay, I forget how exhausting talking to you is. Thank you, friend. So, what was a story you heard that you wish you hadn't heard because of the other perspective? That's personal, don't you think? Yes, it is. Which is why you should share it with your friends. It'll be fun. Like a nest of flyers. That is fun. That is sarcasm. You know I hate those damn things. Why? Because I keep boots to the ground. I know what's in front of me, behind me, all around me. I don't want to think about what's above me. I don't like surprises, and that's what things that fly are. I don't care if you're a bird or a bug, or a flyer or a fighter jet. Being dive bombed is and always will be my blind spot. Blind spots are scary, like stories you wish you hadn't heard because of the other perspective. You're not gonna let this go, are you? Not if it not if it helps me find my creator. That reminds me of Titans. Bangalore would not make a good grunt as Titans come out of the sky. Okay. Oh man, I got a burp in my belly. Kinda got it. Okay. I don't know how this will possibly help you do that, but if it'll make you go away, I'll tell you. I haven't told the story in years. My brother Jackson and I were only a year apart, even though everyone thought we were twins. I mean everyone, which is funny because well, it's not that we didn't get along, but I had to beat him at everything. It was a sickness. From the moment we could walk, I had to be better than him. I had to reach the finish line before him. I remember being 5 and reading at the level of an 8-year-old just so I can beat him. It wasn't mean or malicious. It was just what we did. Jeez, I'm burping all over the place. It's just what we did. We'd race to see who could finish our vegetables first. Ultimately, we made it a lifelong game. Even created a scorecard. One of us would challenge or dare the other, and we'd say, "For the card," and the other would say, "For the card." Then, whoever won that bet, that dare, that challenge, an X was marked on the scorecard. What were you playing for? To see who was the better Williams sibling. First one to 101. How long did that take? Until the day it lasted our whole lives. Mama didn't like it. She thought it made us antagonistic. But in a weird way, it brought us closer. That competitive streak. It's why the rumor that we were twins spread when we were teenagers. Mama used to joke that she'd think we were twins too, if it weren't for the 18 months she knew she spent pregnant during a 2-year period. Pops would chime in from the living room, said he couldn't help it. Those were Mama's best years, and we'd be so grossed out. That's because conception is disgusting to human beings when it's their own. Moving on. Where are we going? To basic training. It's 27:15, the end of boot camp. 2 long years busting my ass and being broken down to make me the soldier I am today. Jackson and I were in the same boot camp, mostly because I couldn't beat his records if I didn't know what there were. And we're graduating, getting our orders to report to duty. And he's got this present for me. He won't tell me what it is, but his hype for this thing is through the roof. For weeks, all I heard was how epic this present was. So we get to graduation day. The whole family is there, and I'm already mad at Jackson. See, he found out earlier that week that he was gonna get his marching orders a few days after graduation, and I had to wait another week. That was the last contest on a scorecard. Who got their marching orders first? And Jackson won. So he made it to 100 first. Yep. After 20 years of bets and dares and challenges, we were neck and neck to 99 each. And he was getting his assignment before I did. Jackson was the better Williams sibling. I was so mad I took the scorecard and ripped it up into little pieces. Anyway, graduation's just ended and Jackson's waving at me, and I assume he wants to give me this gift. He's rushing toward me, and then suddenly there's something on the microphone. Even through the ceremony is over, and they're asking us to remain seated. No one knows what's going on, but there's this disturbing humming sound on the air. And I realize it's not machinery. It's people whispering. And as this wave of whispering takes over the crowd, there's gasps and tears and cries of agony. And as word of whatever it is spread, I can see it getting closer, and I don't want it to. I don't want to know what they know. On instinct, I get up and walk away from the audience, away from the whispering wave. Jackson follows me. He asks me to keep it together, but I need to know. And I don't want a stranger who had a ticket in front of me to tell me whatever this is. I beg him, tell me what happened. And he does. Typhon has been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of IMC soldiers gone in a flash. They were R&D. Do you believe that? Research and development. Not even a battalion, and they died when the militia raided their labs. All of them, including Zeke Williams, my oldest brother. The only one of us who didn't become a soldier. He became a scientist, and he was dead on my graduation day, murdered in a militia raid. I'm very sorry. That's a very sad story. Oh, it gets worse. See, my family had this tradition, goes back generations. We're a military family, and the night before one of us gets sent off, we throw a party. The Williams send-off, as it's called, and everyone's invited. Friends, family, neighbors, even the daily deliveries person. There's a barbecue, Nana's red velvet cake, so good. And Jackson and I have our own tradition. We write a song about the Williams who's going off to assignment. Jackson plays guitar, I sing. We even competed with that. Anyways, it's a hell of a bash, and we stay up all night. But at sunrise, we ask everyone who's left, which isn't many, we ask them to leave. The last hour, the first hour of dawn, that's just for us. Just for immediate family, period. And we open one last beer, and we just sit around the table and watch every shade of the sun, and watch every shade as the sun rises, and nurse that last beer. And when we're done, we take the bottle cap and the one with the hole in the middle from the bottle cap opener and tie it to a leather rope. We make a leather bracelet and put it on the wrist of the person leaving. The bottle cap from the last beer you had with the family. A piece of us is with them, wherever they go in the galaxy. And you tell everybody you know, if anything happens to you, take the dog tags, but you keep the bottle caps on your wrist. Those bracelets will guide us back to each other someday. They gotta. And if something does happen, they don't make it home, we have another tradition. We play footage from that party at their funeral. We don't want to think of our loved ones' final moments in battle. We want to remember them from that night, smiling, happy, surrounded by the people who love them the most. That's who we are. That's what the Williams family stands for. That's beautiful. I usually just ask for high fives. It's supposed to be beautiful, except for Zeke. It wasn't. See, Zeke never showed up to his party. Zeke had a girlfriend, Cataline. She wore skin-tight everything, was constantly sending messages to other people she didn't want you to know about. She'd barely look at you when you walked into her room, but Zeke was smitten. He fell head over heels. I could never figure out why. She didn't seem interested in him in the slightest, but every time he was around to catch on to the fact that there were other men, she'd suddenly turn on the charm. I didn't know why she kept him around. It made no sense to me. If you don't love someone, don't be with them. But Cataline was something else. She strung him along, while the whole time she had one eye on every other man in the room. Anyway, he skipped out on his own send-off party to spend his last night with her. None of us got to say goodbye to him. Sure, we talked over vidphone and whatnot. It's not like we ever talked to him again. But he didn't get a bottle cap bracelet. He chose a girl who was using him over his own family. We didn't have any happy footage of Zeke for his service. We just had regret and remorse and sadness. The only bright spot, Cataline showed up to pay her respects with her new boyfriend. I gave her a right hook to the chin and fractured her jaw in 3 places. I know, only 3. I was off my game that day. Your hatred for her is both understandable and a projection of your own grief and frustration. And now I understand why you hated Loba when you met her. Don't you head shrink me, robot. And now I take that back. Damn right you do. You think I hated Cataline? That was nothing compared to my hatred for the militia after Zeke died. I was more determined than ever to watch them all burn. We were order and we were law. They were just anarchists. Why would you murder a bunch of scientists? I wanted blood. I wanted blood. Jackson put in for a transfer, didn't want to leave me alone. I followed him to boot camp, but he followed me on my first assignment, the IMS Hestia. He didn't trust me not to go rogue, so he made sure he was at my side. He said he couldn't bear to lose a sister after he lost a brother. How's that for poetry? Considering that's the decision that would have cost me my second brother. Man, my mouth itches. Alright. Of course, with the typhoon gone, all the resources were called back to Gridiron, and it became the last stronghold of the IMC. Man, now I gotta sneeze. Not coming out though. Last stronghold to the IMC. Thanks to their unnecessary murder of my brother and hundreds of millions of others, the tide turned in the militia's favor. That's when folks started jumping ship. First it was the Mercs with the good old Commissioner Blisk at the helm. We were on the wrong side, fellas. Time to quit while we're behind. Then the Remnant fleet disappeared. That was the fleet that controlled the IMC's sophisticated computer network. So now we don't have our balls, and we don't have our network. We've essentially been castrated. Power hungry? You're damn right we were. We had no power. We were the underdog. We were dying left and right. Our leadership was in shambles. There was nobody calling the shots. All we had was the home field advantage. It would take that and a miracle. When the militia showed up and surrounded Gridiron, we still had a few aces up our sleeve. You were there. You were at the Battle of Gridiron. I was. So, you know what happened? You know how the war ended? I wish I did. The IMS Hestia was docked at the time when the militia attacked. Jackson was the one that woke me up, broke the door off the hinges of my quarters. I nearly shot him in his face. Don't go breaking down doors of women in the military in the middle of the night. You'll get your you-know-what shot off. I don't know what you-know-whats are, but that sounds bad. Thank God I realized who it was before I pulled the trigger. He took my hand, said there was a skeleton crew waiting on the Hestia. General Lewis was there, and that's when they revealed that they had grabbed an item from the labs and smuggled it on board with them. I didn't know what it was or exactly where it came from. All they said is that it was recovered from the Typhoon wreckage, part of the project Zeke had been working on. And it was on Gridiron? They were experimenting with it. I never got a good look at it, whatever it was. It was important to the IMC. Could have turned the tide, I guess. That's how powerful this thing was. I assumed we were gonna use it at the battle against the militia. The same they had done to us on Typhoon. Nothing could have been further from the truth. If you were surrounded and the militia was on the offense, what other choice did you have but use the weapon against them? The general, my brother, they all chose to run. Can you believe it? It all came down to this. The battle at Gridiron, the final contact between militia and IMC. We had a piece of technology that could wipe them out, and they ran away like cowards. Jackson had to restrain me from staging a coup. He said this was for our very survival. They locked us in stasis chambers. I screamed the whole time. This wasn't who we were as soldiers. This wasn't who we were as Ironhides. This wasn't who we were as Williamses. They used the energy from the experimental weapon to amplify the phase tech that would transport us. That's when the drugs took effect, and I started to drift off, and I don't remember what happened next. You don't remember either? You don't remember your past either? You and me and Wraith should start a club. I remember my past, just not the chunk of time go, just not the chunk of time during which the IMS Hestia traveled from Gridiron to the border of the Outlands. That trip would take 20 years at normal speed. Thanks to Typhon's mystery tech they stole from the lad, we got there in a year. Stasis chamber took care of our digestive needs and oxygen, kept us alive, and kept our muscles from atrophying. atrophying. With the tech that powered us here, dead. We could return to Gridiron, like you said, but it would take decades. We had no idea who was alive and who was dead, or who even won the battle. We were safe, but none of us were sound. I was furious for Jackson for weeks, but inevitably, I forgave him. What else are you gonna do? You're stranded at the other end of the universe with your only family you've got left? If you don't forgive him, you've got nothing to get out of bed for in the morning. It sounds like you forgave him because he saved your life, and saving your life is a good thing. He damned us to purgatory is what he did, and we didn't know it then, but remember that waves of whispers in the crowd on graduation day? It was a sign of things to come, because another wave of whispers followed us and the IMS Hestia, only we didn't know it. See, something happened back at Gridiron. Maybe it happened during the battle, maybe we caused it with the technology Jackson stole, who knows, but apparently all forms of communication, all satellites, all computers, every power line in existence just shut down for good. The blackout, yeah, the blackout. Wherever it started, it made its way throughout the universe, and by the time it hit you, and you realized what happened, you couldn't warn anyone in the path because you couldn't contact them. It took 5 years for it to spread from Gridiron to the Outlands. 5 years it was out there, heading toward us, and we didn't have a clue. Rumors had started to spread throughout the Outlands that nobody could get in touch with the frontier planets. But we all figured out it was the case of work being done. The connections were always fritzing in and out anyway. Bunch of technicians got together for a year before it hit us. Put in some old-fashioned tech from a few centuries ago. Connections weren't great, but at least it worked on a different system. The syndicate planets were able to stay connected, thank God, because when the blackout hit us, we were still able to communicate with Gaia, Talos, and Samathi. They say the classics are the classic for a reason. They say the classics are the classics for a reason, and the same is true with technology. Those old systems are the reason we can at least communicate with the Outlands. They were smart. What about the experimental tech from Typhon that Jackson used to save your lives? It's gone. I don't know where. Jackson said he tossed it once he realized it didn't hold any more power. I hated the damn thing. If it wasn't for that thing, whatever it was, we'd be home with our family, not stranded 2 decades away. Or you could be dead, or they could be dead. There are billions of possibilities, and you have no idea what Jackson and the crew of Hestia did was good or bad. Or it was bad. It was all bad. I disagree. I don't care. Sad things happen, and a lot of sad things happen to you, friend. More sad things than happen to most people. And yes, you are not a nice person sometimes because of them, but you are a natural leader and a moral person, and you fight harder and longer than anybody else in the games, even though your eyebrows are permanently in that position now. I think you should be proud. I think you should be proud of who you are and the soldier you became, and I think that pride should help you to smile when you want to cry, or get mad, or yell at me for talking too much. And you might not think that smiling is important, but it's just as important as being mad at the world. And if you say you disagree, then I'll say I don't care right back at you. Are you going to say you disagree? I don't disagree, Pathfinder. Oh, good, because I actually do. because actually I do care, and I didn't want to say I didn't care. And is that why you're crying again, Bangalore? Why aren't you saying anything? I I really want you to find your creator. It would mean a lot to me. Why would it mean a lot to you? Because I'm dying to know who programmed you. Sometimes you say crap that makes me want to use you for target practice, and other times, Path, you say exactly what I need to hear. And sometimes I do impressions. Do you want to hear me do caustic? I don't concern myself with the ambitions of it's okay. I'm good. You haven't answered my question though. What was the story you wish you hadn't heard the other perspective of? That you were better off not knowing? Oh, right. That's what started this. It's funny, those last few years on the Hestia, taking odd jobs to get by, Jackson and I became closer than ever before. We relied on each other, and the rest of the Hestia crew, we became family. Jackson confided in me about a week before the explosion that separated us. He told me that he'd grown close to this doctor who worked at the lab that excuse me. There was this doctor he'd grown close to who worked at the lab that had the arc shard. That's how he first heard about it. And this doctor confided with him that the reports on Typhon said before redactions. After confided in him what the reports on Typhon said before redactions. They kept the truth from the public. The Ares division doing cruel and unspeakable things, testing on human subjects. The research and development team was building a weapon that would destroy reality as we know it. They were building the iron fist that the IMC could bring down at any moment if anyone dared to speak up to them. He had tears in his eyes as he admitted the militia killed hundreds of thousands to save billions. So the IMC were the bad guys. General Martyr was a bad guy. The people in charge who made the decisions, those were the bad guys. The IMC is not the one hive mind. It's entire populations of people. Don't tell me that the people I love, who loved me, and who are good people at heart, are bad people. I know we're not. Don't paint us with that brush. I may not believe in Ares division, but I believe in my brothers, my parents, my people. I helped people. I even ever heard of the Nexus executions? Planet on the other side of the Outlands with some half-assed monarchy that punished anyone who said anything critical of them, no matter how small, with public executions? Barbaric. Until the IMC stepped in. We saved those people. They were grateful. Their children are alive today because of us. The IMC weren't angels, but we damn sure weren't devils. And anyone who thinks that can reconcile any of it into good guys and bad guys, unless you're God Almighty, you're full of crap if you think you can. I think I'm a good guy. Am I full of crap? I think you're the closest thing to a good guy the legends have right now, Path. But yes, I do think you're full of crap. And that makes excellent fertilizer to grow important fruits and vegetables. It sure does. I have one last question. I swear to God, Robot, if you make me cry again or you tell anybody I cried, I will melt you down and turn you into a trash compactor. What was the gift? The what? You said Jackson hyped up this gift, but you never told me what it was. I never knew. The news about Zeke and Typhon derailed the whole graduation day. I actually had forgotten all about it until 6 months after we lost Jackson. It was a grenade on the outer hull of the ship, but we had no idea where it came from. If it had been floating through space or somebody shot it at us and we never knew, it was a freak accident. One minute we were talking in an airlock, and the next I'm seeing him orbit over Solace. I know this, he's alive. He has to be. He put his jump pack on every morning, and the last time I saw him, his eyes were open, and he was smiling at me. He's out there somewhere, maybe on Solace, maybe somewhere else by now, but I will find him, and I'm going to wring his neck when I do. Why would you do that? Because it took me 6 months after the explosion to work up the courage to go through his things, and that's when I found it. All these years, he'd kept it and never gave it to me. So, there I was, standing in his quarters 6 months after he disappeared, and it was like this voice from just from beyond. With tears in my eyes, I opened the card. It said, "Dear Anita, I know how upset you were when I won Best Williams Sibling after finding out my assignment was coming in the next week, and you had to wait for yours. But turns out we were both wrong. Technically, we're tied, 99 to 99, and you're beating me in one more thing. You're beating me in one more thing before I get my orders next week. You're graduating first. So, it looks like the Best Williams Sibling isn't even a contest. Wherever we go from here, it's out of our hands, but I know we'll both succeed. And let's hope history doesn't repeat itself and we end up somewhere boring like Zeke and Uncle Al did, right? But in all seriousness, I'm so proud of you. And always remember, what's broken can be fixed, what's shredded can be mended, and what's been torn apart can always be put back together again. Love always, Jackson." And inside, painstakingly taped together, was our scorecard. Only this time, it proclaimed me as the winner. I don't get it. Jackson won. He was supposed to be the first to 100 because he was getting his marching orders before me, but instead he finished the pieces of the scorecard out. He fished the pieces of the scorecard out of the garbage, taped it back together, and willingly gave up the contest of a lifetime. Because my name started with an A, and I graduated 7 seconds before he did. He gave me the win, because that's who he is. You're the first person in a long time to not refer to him in the past tense. And I'm not even a person. You feel more human to me now than most everyone out there. And if you say he's alive, I believe you, friend. Just like I believe I'm going to find my creator. Your battalion may have been involved in my creation, but it would have been before you were born. Tell me, who is this Uncle Al that Jackson mentions? I never knew him. He died before I was born. My father referred to him as Uncle Al. He wasn't even blood related, just a friend of the family. He was also 81st Battalion. I don't know if we ever found out the real story of how he died. Something about the IMC was contacted to help with security detail for some science project when Zeke got called to Typhon. We ragged on him that he'd end up like Uncle Al. We never thought it would actually happen. What happened to Uncle Al? He died. Coincidentally, it was also an explosion somewhere on Samathi. I don't know the details. Pop said he was a security for someone who was trying to save the future of the Outlands with something called Iris? Project Iris. Yeah. They couldn't give us the details, but he died on the line of duty, received the Medal of Valor posthumously, and everything. I think I'm Project Iris. I think they were building me. Are you sure about that? Not at all. But what else could they have been building? I don't know. But if it was just a robot, I feel like Pops would have said something. Jackson loved robots growing up, and nobody ever mentioned anything about a robot. I just remember he'd get really defensive if we made fun of it, saying it wasn't some hippy-dippy project that a lot of people were going to die if Project Iris failed. So if I'm not Project Iris, what am I? Maybe you're the thing Project Iris was trying to stop? What? Kidding, Pathfinder, it's a joke. I'm kidding, but you know who you should talk to? Wit. My best friend Mirage. He grew up here. He'd know if something was threatening the future of the Outlands. back when the Civil War was breaking out, Jackson and I stayed as far away from the Outlands planets as possible. Mirage was down here. He was dealing with it, lost his brothers in those worlds. He probably knows what they were trying to protect the Outlands from. If it's not you, that is. If it's not you, that is. I hope it's not me. Relax, I told you I was joking. Thank you, friend. Thank you. And stay pure, Pathfinder. You're better off this way. Oh, and I meant it. If anyone hears I shed a tear, you'll get pounded into aluminum foil. And that's the end of the interview. Here are the data points received. Bangalore comes from a military family who love her very much, and even though everyone tells me the IMC are bad guys, I think only some of them were truly bad, and the rest of them were just letting bad people do bad things, and it didn't bother them unless their lives suffered, and then it bothered them. I also learned that when lives were bad, they got angry about it, and they were as angry as everyone else. So maybe bad guys don't exist after all. Maybe there are just guys who live lives peacefully and guys who don't. And the guys who don't just make life so hard for the peaceful people that everyone just gets mad at everyone else. And when that happens, you find a ship with an experimental energy source. I wonder if it had a name. And you run like hell. Because you may be a coward, but at least you're still alive. I don't know what any of that means, but it sure is interesting. I learned that the Battle of Gridiron was not nearly as evenly matched as people say, and that a lot of people may have died, but a lot of people may also have lived, and still nobody knows who won. I believe Jackson Williams was not the perfect soldier, but he made up to it for being the perfect brother. I learned that the blackout took 5 years to span the galaxy and may have been caused by the IMS Hestia escaping, or maybe not. What I do know is that the IMS Hestia and its strange experimental tech have nothing to do with Project Iris, which was happening years before, and light years away. Project Iris started because the future of the Outlands was at stake. I learned that I might not be Project Iris, but I might be, or I might be the thing that Project Iris had to save the Outlands from, but I might not be. Maybe Wraith and Bangalore are right. Maybe I should stop digging. Maybe I won't like the answers I find. No, I'll like 'em. I'll like 'em no matter what. I just know it. Good thing I'm asked to see my best friend in the world to relive the deaths of his 3 brothers, with him. He's going to be so excited when he finds out. And that is the end of chapter 5, leading up to chapter 6, Mirage's chapter, everyone's favorite legend. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope it actually recorded correctly. If it didn't, then I'm gonna be mad, but what am I gonna do about it? Anyways, that was a good stream. I had fun reading, but I'm tired now. Oh, my back. That was a good stream. Anyways, this is the end. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I get my next part up or recorded at least soon. I'll try to get this one up on my YouTube relatively soon, but yeah. See you guys later.